Hello, there he is. Hey, how you guys doing this morning? You guys doing good? Yeah. You guys doing good? Who won the game? Which one won the game? Did you win the game? That was awesome. You were so fast. That was like ridiculous. Do you run track? And you have the Cheez-Its? Are you gonna share with your friends or are you gonna keep them for yourself? As a friend takes it. Cool. Hey guys, if you guys don't know me, my name's Tim. I'm the high school pastor here at Eastlake Church, and I get another chance to talk to you guys on this Sunday morning. I'm really excited, okay? Hey, how many of you guys have social media? Anybody here have social media? Anybody got an Instagram? Anybody miss Vine? I need yes. F's in the chat for Vine. I miss it. I loved it so much. But anyway, did Sean Mendes start on Vine? He started on YouTube. Okay. Then Vine. Okay. And then he became massive. Fabian knows. If you guys ever need a history of Sean Mendes, just go see Fabian. Anyway, so you guys are in middle school. You guys are on social media. Social media now is kind of a little bit different than it was when I was in middle school. You see, now people can be really savage and rude on social media, but social media like itself was savage back when I was young. Whenever I was in 8th grade, like this new thing called MySpace came out. Has anybody ever heard of MySpace? Just like raise your hand if you've heard of it. Can you make me feel old? Raise your hand if you've never heard of MySpace. You don't know what the heck I'm talking about. It's like a VCR to you. Okay, ouch, that hurts. Okay, let me tell you about MySpace. MySpace was right after this social media thing called Friendster. Then MySpace came out and it was like big. And it became mainstream. And it was the thing that made social media actually like a thing. We were I was the generation that my parents started freaking out because they had no idea what to do about social media. We never heard about it. And I was like the first generation of it, right? And then Facebook, and then you had Instagram and all the rest, right? But MySpace for like 2 or 3 years was the king of social media. Everybody had it. None of the parents were on it yet, which meant it was awesome still, right? And so I remember that what happened was MySpace had this thing, and I want to tell you why it was brutal and it was savage, okay? Because on your MySpace page, you didn't have iPhones, so you actually went on your computer and you typed in myspace.com, you logged in, and then on the side it would have your profile picture, and then it would have like all your personal info, kind of thing, all that stuff. But then on this side, it had a thing called My Top 8, okay? My Top 8. And imagine how much damage this would do to you as a middle schooler, right? My Top 8 was a space where you would go into your list of 500 friends, whatever, how many friends you had, and you would choose your top 8 friends to be displayed on your profile, ranked 1 through 8, okay? So, you guys gotta understand, this started some mad drama in my middle school. Like, I mean, like, you would have someone as your number 1, and then if you had like a fight, you'd move them down to like number 4, and it would be like there'd be beef between you, there'd be like shade being thrown kind of a deal. The worst question that you had to ask was when you get a girlfriend, do you move her to number 1 in your top 8 above like your best guy friend? Or do you like move her to like number 3, but then she's mad, so you move her to, like, it was drama, y'all. But the biggest thing that it did was the people that were really popular in school. You guys still have like the most popular guy, most popular in school. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like, is that person? Well, we had those too, and those people would choose their top 8, and their top 8 were kind of like considered the kings and queens of campuses. Anybody watch Stranger Things? You know, like Steve Harrington? Like, if he had a MySpace, his top 8 would determine everybody's like social status in their school. And so I remember that there was one girl that would never have to worry about being on anybody's top 8 because she was always number 1, because everybody wanted to be like Taylor. You see, Taylor was like the most popular girl at school. She was a cheerleader. She always got the best grades. She was nice, except when she didn't have to be, you know what I'm saying? Every time she posted her picture, it was like 75 comments of other girls going, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Girls, why do you do that, by the way? Have you guys noticed that, like on Instagram? Like the girl posts, and it's like literally all comments are her girlfriends just being like, you're so great. When guys post, it's like, right on, dude, good, get jacked, whatever it is. But she would post, and that was like who she was. And everybody wanted to be like Taylor. Everybody wanted to be like her. She could go to any party that she wanted to go to because she probably threw most of them, or she was like the guest of honor at those parties. She could date anybody that she wanted to date. She could like do anything that she wanted to do socially. I remember even for Taylor, it seemed like she could be successful anytime she wanted to be successful. There was nothing she couldn't do. When she walked into a room, like it was almost like the queen walked into the room. It was like, oh, it's Taylor. You know what I mean? Like that kind of deal. Everybody wanted to be like Taylor. And if you guys are taking notes on your phone, I want to tell you why everybody wanted to be like Taylor. And I encourage you guys to take notes on your phone. As the high school pastor, we do it a lot in high school ministry because I think that I forget my messages right after I speak them sometimes. And so I know that you probably do too. And so I encourage you guys, take these notes, and tonight when you're laying in bed or when you got some time to just yourself in the afternoon, look them back over and apply them to your life, okay? Here's the reason that she was so, like, everybody wanted to be like Taylor, and here's the reason. It's because to us, Taylor had found the key 3 things. And I didn't have the words for it then, but I do now. I know that every single one of us in this room, including me back in middle school, was looking for 3 things. We were looking for belonging, we were looking for love, and we were looking for purpose. We're looking to belong, we're looking to be known. Like, there's nobody in this room that doesn't want to be known by somebody else. Whether it be one person if you're an introvert, or like 1,000 people if you're weird like me and an extrovert. You want to be known by someone. You want someone to know not just like your filtered face on Instagram. You want them to know who you really are. Your deepest fears, your deepest secrets, all those things. You want them to know who you are. You want to belong to a group of people that know you that way. You're also looking for love. I'm looking for love. I'm not talking like romantic love, like ooh, cutesy boyfriend, girlfriend. No, I'm talking about like friendship love. I'm talking about the kind of love that goes deeper than just like, hey, it's good to see you, bro. It's the kind of love that when they see you, they know based on your face and like your expression, like, oh dude, you're having a bad day, let's go talk. Like that kind of love. We're looking for that, right? Aren't all of us looking for that? And we're all looking for purpose. We're all looking to know, where are we going in life? What are we going to do? How many of you guys have grandparents that ask you almost every day, what are you going to do when you grow up? And you're like, dude, I'm 12, leave me alone, right? You know what I'm saying? We're all looking for purpose. And it seemed like Taylor had all three of those things. And I remember always thinking, man, I want to be like Taylor. I want to be like Taylor. And then I got the chance to meet Taylor. You see, whenever we went into my science class, do you guys still do seating charts at your school? Sometimes, like, you have some teachers that, like, they make you sit in a certain order. Well, we had that at this time in my 8th grade year. It was the first day of my 8th grade year. I went to science class, and I remember that normally we're sat by, like, last name, and I'm Holt, but we were sat by first name that day, and my name is Tim, and her name was Taylor. So it was like Adam, Bradley, Caroline, Dana, and then all the way down the row, and then it was Taylor, and then Tim. And I was like, oh, I get to sit next to Taylor. And I had all these like dreams and fantasies, like it's gonna be like Twilight, we're gonna sit next to one another, she's gonna find out I'm a vampire, we're gonna fall in love, like we're gonna be science partners, it's gonna be awesome. And she never talked to me one time. That's kind of what really happened. But I remember because Taylor was really good, I don't know if you guys have people at your school that are like this, but she could hold her phone under the table and like be answering a science question, like, and also texting at the same time. She always had people texting her because she was known by freaking everybody, right? Does anybody have friends that can do that? They can text at the table? Yeah, it's an amazing skill. But anyway, as she was doing it, I remember that one day came and it was the first day that Taylor talked to me. And I remember I was sitting next to her and I sat down and I'm sitting, you guys can kind of imagine that I'm sitting right here and I'm looking, towards the whiteboard or whatever, I just chilling. And then she came in and she's all frantic. She looks different than she normally does. And she comes in and I'm sitting right here. She slaps the table really hard and she looks me dead in the face. She slaps the table, she looks me dead in the face. And immediately I know something's wrong. Because she's got like the cold sweats and she's shaky. Her eyes are all like bloodshot, pupils super dilated kind of a deal. And she looks at me and she goes, oh my God, Tim. And I was like, you know my name? And she's like, oh my God, Tim, like, are my eyes bloodshot? Are my pupils dilated? Like, and I'm just like, you look fine? You look great? Like, I don't know what to say to that. you look fine? And what I realized pretty quick, I didn't know a lot back then or anything, but I recognized that she was pretty high and it wasn't a very good one. You know what I mean? Like she was on drugs and it wasn't a good kind of, if there is a good kind, it wasn't a good high by any means for her. And I remember that she sat down next to me and it was like this illusion got shattered because everybody wanted to be like Taylor. And then she started talking and suddenly for the first time, I didn't want to be like Taylor anymore. Because you see, Taylor sat down and she sat there and she started talking to me. Like, I'd never talked to me before. And I said, are you okay? Is anything new? She's like, my home life is awful. My parents are getting divorced. She said, and I cover it up. I tried to chase popular. Like, she was telling me this. I'm like, what? And she's like, I'm on this. And I can't stop feeling numb all the time. And I'm always depressed. And then sometimes I don't know if I even want to live to the next day. And I just remember sitting there going, holy cow, like, I would never have guessed that. Because to me, from the outside, it seemed like you were getting that love, belonging, and purpose that all of us want. But really what had happened was Taylor had been chasing a counterfeit. And you see, here's the tension for me, is I think that every single one of us in this room, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter what nationality you are, every single person, whether you're a student or an adult in this room, all of us are looking to find love, belonging, and purpose. You can kind of imagine that being the destination. Every single one of us wants to get to the same place. But there are about 13 billion different roads that seem to lead to it, right? Every single one of you, when you go to school or when you go home or you go hang out with your friends, you're faced with these choices, and these choices are telling you, if you go down this road, you're going to find love, belonging, and purpose. If you go down this road, you're going to find love, belonging, and purpose. And you start to walk down that road, but then you realize that it's not leading to the real thing. It's leading to counterfeit. Because in order to belong to this group of people, you actually have to do something. They don't care really about you, they care about what you can bring them. And you realize, well, that's not really that's kind of counterfeit belonging. That's not the real thing. For some of them, they only like you or they only love you whenever you're happy. They only love you whenever you're having good days. And when you start to have bad days, they're like, oh no, we only do positivity here, bro. And you're like, no, that's not real love. That's counterfeit. It's only love whenever it's good for you. Or maybe even with purpose, you start to realize that, man, we just getting deeper and deeper into talking bad about people or bullying people. We just get deeper and deeper into doing these different kinds of things, these different kinds of drugs, whatever that may be. And you realize that, man, even this is counterfeit purpose, because where does it end? Well, guys, I want to talk to you guys about today, how do we actually find real love, belonging, and purpose? Because I want to tell you something. There is a road to love, belonging, and purpose. It exists, and it's really, really easy to get to. So, guys, here's what I want to do. I want you to lean in for the next 10 minutes. We're going to talk really quickly through this Bible passage, and then I want to give you guys the road to real love, belonging, and purpose, and how you really find that, okay? Let me pray, and then I really want to dive right into this verse. God, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with these middle school students today. God, I know that in their world today, they're dealing with so much stuff. But God, I know that you give them the true road to love, belonging, and purpose. So help me communicate that with your words today so that you can change people. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, we'll be talking about this guy named Paul in this series called Goals, where we've been given life goals by Paul. And Paul wrote this letter to this church in Galatia that he started that was kind of struggling at this point. And he's trying to give them great life goals to lead towards in their own lives. So we're going to read this. It's going to be up on the screen. Follow along with me here, okay? It says this: don't be misled. No one makes a fool out of God. What a person plants, he will harvest. The person who plants selfishness, ignoring the needs of others and ignoring God, harvests a crop of weeds. All he'll have to show for his life is weeds. But the one who plants in response to God, letting God's Spirit do the growth work in him, harvests a crop of real life, eternal life. I want to give you guys a word picture to kind of bring us into the lesson today. Whenever I was 7 years old, my dad started teaching me the hard work of yard work. Does anybody ever have to do yard work in their yard, or gardening in your yard kind of thing with your parents? Okay, whenever I was 7 years old, I lived in Texas. It was 105 in the summers, and my dad would make me go out every Saturday morning, and we'd work all Saturday until 3 o'clock. So just sweating, and he would make us mow the lawn, he'd make me weed eat, he would make me pick up sticks. That I guess built my character, I don't know. But anyway, but he would make me do all this stuff in the yard. But then one day, I remember my favorite day came, and I still remember this to this day. My dad said, hey, we're gonna plant a garden for your mom in the backyard. And so what we did was we bought the tomatoes, we bought the fruits, we brought all this, all the things that you could buy, and we went out to this little black planter box that we done. We put all this mulch and stuff in there, we got the ground ready, and then we dug some holes, we poured the seeds in, and we watered it, and I was so excited for these things to grow. Have you guys ever had that plant, excitement? You're like, oh, plant! I was so pumped. I literally went out there in 2 hours. I'm like, is it grown yet? My dad's like, dude, it's been 2 hours. You need to get off your ABD medicine, Tim. Just chill out. And I would run up and I would be like, has it grown yet? Has it grown yet? And it took about 7 days for anything to sprout. And then on the 7th day, I walked out. It was the next Saturday, and I walked out and I was like, oh my gosh, there's something growing in here. It was green. It was a little purple, tinted leaves. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's growing. And I remember I took my dad outside. And I was like, Dad, look, we have plants, our crops are growing. And he taught me a really valuable lesson. He said, no, Tim, you see, those right there are actually weeds. Those aren't the crops that we're looking for, those are weeds. And my dad began to teach me about these things. You see, whenever weeds, they start to grow, they grow a lot faster than your regular crops. They grow quicker, but it's not the stuff above. They will tend to overgrow your garden, will make it look really, really awful, but that's not the stuff that's bad. It's actually what's happening below the surface. You see underneath, and you guys are about to get an ecology lesson right here, but underneath the surface, what happens is your crops, they're growing their roots deep, they're trying to get the water that's underneath the ground, and as you water, that's what takes up the water in them. Well, weeds, what they do is, the way that they get their water sources, they grow their roots, but then their roots begin to grow towards your plants. And when the roots hit the roots of the crops that you're trying to grow, they actually penetrate those roots and get them diseased, so that all of the water actually goes to the weeds. The weeds never produce fruit, they're not good for it, they actually just end up killing whatever they touch around them. Guys, our spiritual life is actually kind of like that, our walk with Jesus. You see, whenever we plant a crop, immediately what happens is weeds get introduced as well. And you see, whenever we don't tend to the garden, what ends up happening is we fall for counterfeit love, belonging, and purpose. When we don't tend to our garden and actually help it out, it actually turns out that we fall for the counterfeits. Now, let me tell you guys some things about weeds that my dad taught me that day. And if you're taking notes, I want you to write these down, because these are true about spiritual weeds as well, okay? First of all, weeds get there without us planting them. You don't have to plant weeds. We never planted the weeds. We didn't think let's plant things that kill us, crops as well. No, all it was, they naturally get introduced. Wherever life is, weeds pop up. That's just what happens. The second thing is, weeds look the same as your crop at first. Like at first, these weeds look the exact same as my crop, with just a little bit of difference. That purple tint on the leaves that I told you about, my dad said that's how you tell a weed in Texas, is because it's got a purple tint on the outside of the leaf. Those are the ones that actually end up killing our plants. But they look exactly like them otherwise at first. The third thing is, weeds get thorns when you leave them out for too long. This was the worst part about weeding the garden, is that if we didn't go out every single Saturday and make sure that we pulled these things that were getting introduced into our garden, they would actually begin to grow, and as they matured, they would get these nasty little prickly thorns, but not just like a rose thorn. They would get thorns that if you got it in your hand, they would actually stick in you, kind of a thing, and would make it sting for a long time. Like, they were really, really wicked. So if you left them for too long, you have to get on these specialty gloves and go full, because otherwise they would start stinging your hand, because these weeds are super thorny. And it's kind of like with Taylor, I think that her life maybe started out where she was planting these crops. I know that she went to church and stuff like that too. But then these weeds came in and she didn't tend to it. And the weeds are kind of like those momentary pleasures that we get. It's kind of like those things that you're like, oh, immediately this feels really good in the moment, so I'm going to do it. And then they begin to grow and grow and grow. And it looked just like fulfillment for her at first, but she started chasing popularity, she started chasing drugs, she started chasing all of these things. And she said, listen, I'm just going to let that grow because it feels really good right now. And she found her life, and she was sitting next to me in a science room. She found her life at the point where she realized, I have a counterfeit love, belonging, and purpose. This doesn't feel right. I wonder if you've ever been there before. You see, Paul had been there too. It says in Acts, and I told you guys about this last week, but it says in Acts that Paul got to a point where he had such counterfeit love, belonging, and purpose that as he would walk along the roadway, he would be mumbling curses and threats under his breath at people. He was so angry and so anxious and so bitter. That's what happened whenever he chased the wrong stuff. Well, in Taylor with her weeds, what I realized was these had become pretty thorny for her as well, because now she was addicted to these drugs. She was addicted to this popularity. This was kind of her entire structure of her life, and it was going to take some work to get these out. And then the fourth thing I want to tell you guys about this is weeds, like I said, will choke out the crops that you're trying to grow. Have you ever watched someone in church that you knew they were like following Jesus and they were running after him with everything, and then they started trying to live kind of a double lifestyle? Maybe they started trying to go to church and then maybe smoke on the weekends, or they started to try to go to church or maybe go a little bit too far with their boyfriend or girlfriend after church. You know what I'm talking about? And they started trying to live this double lifestyle. Guys, I want to tell you, this never actually works. You can't live a double lifestyle and be a Christian and follow Jesus and experience his true love, belonging, and purpose. Here's what happens. This always grows up and the weeds grow up and it chokes out the rest of the plant life. I know it's pretty depressing, so let's go to the happy stuff, okay? Let me tell you the goal for today. If you're writing stuff down, I want you to write this down. The goal is to live with the end in mind. There's two separate people that you can be when you look at your life. You can either be like Tim, the 7-year-old who walked out and saw the crop at first, and he was like, oh my gosh, we have something. That feels really cool. But my dad, or you could be like my dad who walked out, saw this garden, looked at it, and said, wow, Tim, I understand that feels good right now to have some of these plants shooting up, but those aren't the things that we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and pull those out because my dad had the end in mind. He knew what he wanted that garden to look like. He knew he wanted it to be full of crops that would produce more crops, that more seeds would fall into the soil, and it would produce more, and we'd have food for our kitchen and all that stuff. He wanted to produce the good stuff. But it took us getting rid of some of those momentary pleasures, guys. Can I tell you why this matters? And I want to tell you how this works. You see, guys, when you enter into a life with Jesus, Jesus begins to plant fruits in your life. Jesus said, I want you to care for this garden. Care for your spiritual life. Look at it, because it may not feel good at first. It may not be the first thing that grows. It may not be the most pleasurable thing right now. But here's what's going to happen is it's going to grow and grow and grow as you walk in step with me. It's just like when you guys, this is what I love, is that Jesus says, while so many people are trying to reach this real love, belonging, and purpose, when you come into a relationship with me, you're already there. Can I say that again? When people out in the world are trying to use every kind of drug and do every kind of experience, whatever, to reach this love, belonging, and purpose, every time finding a counterfeit, Jesus says, when you come into a relationship with me, you're already there. You're actually starting at the line they're trying to get to, and all you get to do is you get to walk deeper into love, belonging, and purpose. When you guys go to camp, you take a step. When you guys experience Jesus there, he puts this crop in your garden, you begin to take a step. And then when you come home and you begin to come to church on Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, he's like, you're taking a step. And you get to walk further and further into what God has for you. Does that make sense? But guys, here's my challenge to you this morning. As you continue to walk further in with Jesus, remember how I said you don't have to plant weeds, they just kind of come? Well, there are weeds that are going to start coming up into your life. They're going to look like being rude to people. They're going to look like taking pleasure for yourself whenever you want it. They're going to look like bullying others. These are the weeds that are going to come start to tempt you, and here's the goal that I want you guys to have in mind today. Man, pull those things up and focus on the end. Does that make sense? Focus on the idea that at the end of middle school, what do you want it to look like? You ever ask yourself that question? When I get into 9th grade, what do I want my middle school time to look like? Because you don't get to do it over. What do you want it to look like? Do you want to have a garden full of crops or a garden full of weeds that you have to take out with thorns in them? So here's my question, and then we're going to jump off to our groups. It says this. First, I want you to look at your seeds. What are you planting in your life? Here's how you know what you're planting. What are you harvesting? Are you harvesting real love, belonging, and purpose? Are you really experiencing that in a real way? Or are you harvesting the counterfeit? Here's how you know you're harvesting the counterfeit. Because typically, emotionally, you begin to kind of fall apart. It makes you anxious to think about these things that you're chasing after. It makes you a little bit depressed. These are the things that, hey Siri, what's up? These are the things that I really want you guys to focus on, okay? What are you planting? What are you harvesting? So here are the two questions that we're gonna ask really quick. Here's the first one. I just want you to think outside of yourself. What seeds did your friends plant or people around you at school or at extracurriculars plant in their lives that will lead them away from this full life, this love, belonging, and purpose in the end? What are those things? And then the second question that you'll answer, you'll have 5 minutes to do that one. And the second question will be this. What seeds are you planting in your own life? I'm going to challenge you to get vulnerable because I think this is a safe place to be vulnerable. What are you harvesting now, and what will you harvest later because of the seeds that you have in your life right now? These can be good things or bad things. Like, hey, right now, Tim, I'm going to church, and I know that means I'm going to harvest great things. Right now, you know what? I've kind of started to be mean to my brother and sister, and I know that feels good in the moment, slap them across the face. But I know that that's going to actually, what I'm going to harvest is going to harvest anger in the future. Does that make sense? Does those questions make sense? All right, so cool. Here's how we're going to do this. The last 2 rows on